You're listening to The Machine, a podcast from Waterford Institute of Technology. My name is Rob O'Connor and I'm a lecturer in the Department of Computing and Mathematics here at WIT. Today we are going to discuss Women in Technology, which is on the back of a Women in Technology event that took place in the WIT arena today, the 7th of March, where over 1,200 participants came in to talk to some companies and hear some inspirational women from the world of computing and tech talk about their experiences. And we've corralled some of them into the studio here today to discuss women in technology and surrounding issues. We have Aisling Furlong, who is a digital media consultant with Glanbia. We have Mairead Meagher, who is a lecturer in WIT and has featured on the podcast a number of times. We have Judy O'Brien, who is a final year student on the Computer Forensics and Security degree here in the college, and previous to that had a career in finance and banking. And we also have Phil Healy, who is a postgraduate student doing an MSc in computing here at WIT and is also an athlete, and a very fine one as well. Also is often introduced as Ireland's fastest woman. And Phil, I was saying to you a little bit beforehand, are you a bit fed up of that tagline?
Yeah, it's a bit strange to be associated as Ireland's fastest woman, but it's absolutely super to have broken both records and to get that tagline over the summer. But to me, I'm just an athlete just like everyone else. But it's absolutely super to have those records to my name.
So I don't know how all of you ended up in your careers and where you are, and I'd like to maybe just explore that a little bit and find out if there's any similarities, maybe what the differences are. And we might start with yourself, Aisling. So Aisling, you're with Glanbia now. You're from Cork originally, isn't it?
I'm from Cork,
So yourself and Phil are both from Cork. Judy, you're from Wexford.
I'm from Enniscorthy.
And Mairead, you're from Tipperary.
I am indeed.
So I'm definitely outnumbered here today. the poor Waterford man. It's like a Munster final nightmare. Okay, so Aisling, how did you end up in a career in technology?
Sure. So I was lucky enough that when I was just about to do my leaving cert, we had two students come in from business information systems, and they gave us an overview of what the course was.
This was in UCC, was it?
And yes, they were from UCC. So just before I was doing my leaving cert, they came in just to give an overview. Very lucky that happened because I wasn't aware at all. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. Just the extent of courses that are out there. You can think of the top 5 or 6 in your head and what everyone puts down on their CAO. But you never hear of all these business information systems courses and all these technology courses. So it was really great for them to come in. It immediately got me excited. I suppose when I was younger, I definitely had an interest in computing and how everything got developed, but I suppose forgot about it because it never came up again. Just in anything really throughout my school years. It was only when I had that talk just before my leaving cert. So that was great. I put BIS down first, Business Information Systems, and really enjoyed the course just because it was so broad. So you got exposure to the coding aspect of it and also the more business side, so dealing with the people. There was even a module on psychology. So it really was broad, and it was just amazing because you got to do loads of different parts of technology. So anything to do with a website build and project management and just dealing with the people side of it, which I really liked. So then I suppose, even though it wasn't that long ago when I graduated, it was like 2014 I think, even for BIS, when you were looking for a BIS role at the time, literally companies just had BIS role. And I was like, what is this? I didn't even know what job I was looking for coming out of it. Now it has changed since, but it's taking a long time, as you can see. So I was immediately applying to BIS type roles, and I was lucky enough that when I went in to my interview for that BIS role, the people who were interviewing me at the time, so I was told going into that interview, like by previous people who had interviewed, either go down, okay, you're an analyst route or you're a programmer. Don't go in between because it's one or the other. They're the only two roles that exist for the BIS role. But of course I didn't, because I like both aspects of it. So I was very honest in the interview in terms of what I wanted to get. I didn't want to just be developing. I wanted to deal with the people side of it and just that more analyst type role. So I was very lucky in the interview that they actually took that into consideration, and they did suggest to me. So Glanbia said, look, I do not think that one area is going to be enough for you, but there is a digital media role. So I signed up for it and then got to learn what that actually was. And we were growing our digital media.
So, sorry, you signed up to it and you didn't know what it was?
I didn't, but I knew it was a mixture.
Yeah.
So they did say that, look, this role isn't going to suit you, or just strictly development is going to suit you. You're saying that you want to have that broad experience, and they said that digital media would be more like that, and we're just starting to build up that team. So I went for it and learned that it was very broad. So you'd be working a lot on the web from the very beginning to the very end, and that really enticed me because I could still keep the technical aspect there as well, because I didn't want to lose that either.
So when you say the web from the beginning to the end, do you mean from the initial construction of a website, or the initial thought of a construction of a website or web technology through to the completion of it?
Yeah, so from the initial brainstorm, why are we creating this website? So being involved in all of those workshops and getting the requirements, it's just a very interesting process to work with the business on that, and best practices and everything, and then working directly on the build of the website. So depending on the size of the website, I would be directly involved in configuring and developing that website, and then all the way through to testing, launch and maintenance. So it's just great to be part of the whole process, and our team really gives that, because you get to do a bit of everything, which is what I always wanted. I just didn't know what it was called. Like, there was no specific job title for that really. I was like, oh, I'm not really an analyst, I'm not a developer, I want to do a bit of everything. Do you know, it was so, like, I was just very lucky there that I got to experience all those bits and pieces of the life cycle.
Brilliant. Okay, now Judy, you're next in line. So Judy, you came back to college as a mature student, and you had previously worked in banking, wasn't it?
So I worked in permanent TSB for the bones of 20 years. I moved to Waterford at 20, and when my kids were young, we had just broken the world, i.e. banks, in 2008, so they were offering redundancy packages. It suited me at the time to take this redundancy package, and I had said I would spend a couple of time rearing my family. Within a very short period of time, it surprised me that the kids had left all of a sudden, gone to school. Jack was in play school, my youngest, and I was left at home every morning and said to myself, what now? It was there I said, right, maybe I should start reskilling and retraining. A couple of years out of the workplace really does play havoc on your confidence. You kind of lose your sense of identity. And I said, right, I'm going to grab this by the horns and do something about it. I discovered through some research a Start Your Own Business course in Kilmacthomas. So it is a 2-year VTOS course. And I went down, had a chat with them and said, maybe this is my way to gradually bring myself back, retraining, reskilling. Because when you work in one place for a long period of time, you become very good at that one job. But when you're out in the big bad world thereafter, you realise that the skills that you acquire may not always be transferable. So I was trying to find something that maybe that would help me transfer those skills and build back up my confidence, of course. So I spent 2 years with the guys down in Kilmac, Frank McQuillan and Trish Daly, and both of those said to me and encouraged me, and they saw something in me that I hadn't seen in myself, that maybe, you know what, you can go and achieve a career in tech by getting a degree and going down that route.
May I ask, had you any previous history with technology?
I had absolutely no history in technology. Finance was my full background. Always loved maths side of it. But the technology, we wouldn't have had to use technology within the banking system. I mean, everything is really done for us when we turn up. It's more customer orientated based. So my qualified financial advisor, it was my role within the bank. So the technology wouldn't have been a big part of that. So when I decided to go into tech, I didn't realise what would I do, where would I start. And looking back on my career, I had said, 20 years ago, all we had to worry about in the banks was, take your security was take a different route to work every day. Make sure the keys are not left in the ATM machine, or lock the door behind you, or clean desk policy. And when I was trying to think, what would I do? I said, right, security had completely changed by the time I left the bank. It was all about changing your passwords. You bring your own devices. They had to be fully shut down, fully secure. And so I came to WIT on a mature student open day and discovered the BS Honours in Computer Forensic and Security, and went, right, this is something that maybe I could marry with my previous life in finance and bring technology and have a go with technology and see could I, break into a new career in tech.
And here you are now, just at the end of your degree.
Here I am, 4 years later, every year. I didn't think I could do this. You're going back to so many obstacles in the way for a mature student before they even consider going back to college. And my first job before I arrived, that first day in here, was to remove those obstacles for myself. So you have to think about finance. Can you afford to retrain yourself? Can you afford to last 4 years without an income? Can you pay your fees every year? There's certain things you must consider. Also, I have 2 kids. So how would I manage childcare for those children? So you really have to start putting your ducks in order. You have to remove those obstacles for yourself so that when you arrive here on your first day, you can hit the ground running. And, you have a plan B and you also have a plan C. And that's very important to consider as a mature student come back. But it's very, very achievable. There's so much help out there. There's so many grants, back to education schemes. Also within the college, student life and learning, student assistance funds, the Maths Learning Centre, which again is something I had to consider. Even though I worked in finance all my life, I was going to have to bring myself back up to a certain standard within maths, so a Leaving Cert standard. So I got Leaving Cert books, and with the help of Frank in Kilmac, took me 2 mornings a week in April and May, and brought me back up to a Leaving Cert standard, really, refreshing my math skills. So again, that was another obstacle because I was afraid of coming back and, I haven't done maths for 20 years. So I was confident arriving here on that first day that this is something I can pull off because I had put all the structures in place to ensure that I could achieve it.
Brilliant. Mighty. Now, Mairead, you're next.
Hi, Rob.
You're next on the. So,
Yeah.
Mairead, how did you end up in tech?
Yeah, that's. I'm kind of listening in awe at Judy here that she had so much organised because it was completely different for me. I suppose I fell into computing completely by accident, really. I knew I liked science and maths in school. It was kind of cool to do maths because we had to go over to the boys' school, which was very cool. And I suppose there was 2 things really there. I knew education because I think it's really important for some women, for some people, and if you can't see it, you can't be it. It's a big thing, I think, and. I suppose, nuns and the old education system has got a very bad rap, and rightly so for a lot of reasons. But I was really lucky that I had very, very good leaders as women in education. They gave us great opportunity. They even let us go out to the boys for maths and physics and other things. And it was about kind of being empowered, or that's a big word for it, but I just liked doing that. And actually I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my sister was doing science, and she said, why did you do science, general science, which included computing? So I did that. And very quickly I knew I was running out of things to do an honours degree in, basically, and computing was fairly new. There was no preconceptions about it because I don't want to age myself, but it was before PCs, that's all I'll say, right? But there was mainframes.
And this was you were in UCD, wasn't it?
I was in UCD, yeah. I went to UCD. And because really there was no, there was UCD, UCC, UCCG. So in one way, Aisling, you've mentioned that people are unaware of all the different courses. When I was going, there were very few courses, which in one way made it a lot easier because you could, go for it and it was general. So I actually feel sorry for people that have all these hundreds of courses that they need to look at. But anyway, I went in, got the degree, realised I liked it, came out, had a bit of a detour in a job I absolutely hated in industry and computing, and it was the worst job in the world, and it was the best job in the world because it meant I really appreciate what I do now. And so it was programming, and because I thought I had a computing degree, I needed to go into programming. It was absolutely wrong. I was wrong. And I then fell into, I literally drove down to WRTC as it was at the time, now WIT. And I walked in and I said, is there any jobs going? And there happened to be a job going, and it was the luckiest day of my life, really. So two things were really good about that time. And I think it's a thing that young people at that stage, my confidence was completely gone at that stage. And I was just really lucky to happen on a job that I absolutely loved and realised it was always really what I wanted to do. So it really married what I like about technology and the whole idea of education as well. So I was very lucky in that I made the mistake the first time of going into the wrong job, but it was actually a really good mistake because I knew what I didn't want, I knew what I wanted, I knew that every day I come in here I'm glad I'm here, all right? And I've not every single minute of every day, as you can imagine, but I know how lucky I am. And I suppose for any young person or older person or whatever out there, there is a job that you can get, there is a career you can get where you can do what you want. You can work with people that you want to work with. You can work with different people all the time. You can do different things, and the harder you work, as soon as you can, the better people you can work with. And that was mine. But I suppose a few things I've learned over the years is, and to go into the women thing a bit, and to go back, like the first role models I had as feminists and working people were the nuns who taught me, right? And it's not often thought about, but they were people who took an option of, not going down a route of getting married and having kids. And it was either that and have no career, or, become, leaders of a corporation, essentially, which what they were. So they were very inspirational to me. And I've just been really lucky. And I really admire people that, like the two girls that have just spoken there, that they want to go out, they don't know what's out there, and you're going to go out there. Because I wouldn't have been that brave, and it still worked out. So you can do it, big leap. So I've no idea how Judy went and took that big leap and put the structures in, because I wouldn't be as structured at all, for instance. And Aisling, you thought about it and you were very enthusiastic. So it's fantastic if you're that structured. If you're not, it can still work, but it's obviously I much prefer to be more as organised as Judy.
I think we'd all like to be as organised as Judy.
I wouldn't have been up as early this morning, right? Or,
I have a Trello board now for organising my life.
I kind of knew you would.
Very tech.
Yeah, I kind of knew you would, Judy. Yeah, and you probably have loads of spreadsheets. But I'm just saying it's kind of open to everybody. And what's really the most important thing is to get something you're good at. Doesn't matter what it is, and just love it and get confidence from that, because there's nothing that gives as much confidence as being really good at something, and we can find that anywhere. We can find that, and wherever you find it, go for it. And there's I know I would always have to say this, but I've been really lucky as well, in that I don't think I've ever had nobody's ever said to me, you can't do that because you're a woman. It never even struck me it was a possibility. That's why when people subliminally or implicitly are told that they can't do maths because they're women, it actually, bits of me wants to die, right? And it's utterly a new thing, because when I was doing my Leaving Cert in old God's time, like nobody told me, and nobody told me I wasn't good enough to do it because I was a woman. They might have said you're not going to do it because you're lazy, right? But they wouldn't have said it because I was a woman. And anybody that thinks that, or anybody that tells that to anybody because of something like that, I just can't understand it. Yeah.
Now, Phil, so you will be known as an athlete, and if somebody said, "Oh, Phil Healy, she's in WIT doing a kind of a sports science degree or something like that, you would that wouldn't raise an eyebrow. However, you're an athlete studying for a master's in computing. How did you end up in that position?
So initially I started off in UCC in 2014, and I started doing children's and general nursing. So that was going to be 4.5 years. My mum was a nurse, so I was like, I'll follow suit. But like Aisling said, like, you're focused on the main courses that are out there, and everyone is looking at like teaching, physio, nursing, just the main courses. So I was like, right, I'll follow suit with that. And I didn't have my full research done going into it. Like I remember when we got our first allocation for placement, they were like, okay, you have nights this week. And I was like, God, they're putting us on nights as students. I was like, I thought nights was like a choice that you could do when you're working. But I absolutely loved the nursing. Had a great group of friends, and I covered the children's aspect as well. So you could go on and do the children's for 14 months after, but we combined both for that extra 6 months. So it did make the course a lot more intensive, but I had a great group of friends and we were all working together. But I was trying to balance the sporting side of it as well at the same time. So I was in Cork, my coach is here in Waterford, but we made it work, and I was very focused on the academic side as well. Like, I might have been achieving on track, but I would have been just as focused on the academic side. I didn't want to let my grades slip or anything like that. So I always pushed myself that way. But then it was in third year of going into third year of nursing, I was like, okay, do I want to be in this career for like when I'm 35 and 40, or will I make the choice now to actually change? And like, sport did have a play in the decision making of it, because like, you have this one shot at the sport, you can work for the rest of your life. But so I, like, my coach always said to me, don't look back on life with a regret. So that's like in any aspect. So I was like, right, I'm 20 now, I can make the decision, or I can go on and finish out the career and make the change then. So I was still going to graduate with a health science degree. I just didn't do the last year of rostered placement, where I was going to be an official registered nurse, but I did do 3 years working in CUH and got a great insight into the life and how rewarding a nursing job is. And like, we worked 13-hour shifts back to back, so it wasn't conducive to the training side of things. So I did make that choice when I was in third year, and I switched into a higher diploma in applied computer technology. Like, it was a big massive difference, but it was in UCC, and like, the college were a great support to me as well. And like, it was different, because even like, you see the women's side in technology, like when I was in nursing, 80% of them were girls, and you would have that 20% boys. And then when I moved into the higher diploma, it was the opposite, 80% boys to 20% girls. So it was a bit of a change, but it didn't faze me. And then I completed my 1 year there, and then transferred here to complete my master's in the enterprise software systems course. So I'm in my second year now, and I just have dissertation left next year.
There's an interesting thread that runs through all four of your stories, in that none of you have said, oh, when I was 16, this is what I wanted to do, and I had my mind made up when I was 16. Or, each of you have come to this area in a whole, from a variety of different starting points. I don't know if any of you have any reflections on that.
I suppose we just don't... We're not exposed to it enough, I don't think. Like, when you're 10, 12, 14, like, if someone asks you what you want to do when you're older, or where do you want to work when you're older, like, you automatically say something that kind of resonates with you, or something that you've seen. It could be on TV, or it could just be places that you've been, or again, your parents or family. And I just suppose that's just the way it's gone, and that's how this has just developed over years and years, and that there isn't an awful lot of women in tech because of that. And I think it's just going to take a bit of time for that pattern to change, but it is changing slowly. It just needs to be presented more. Like, even days like today, like, there was so many kids there today from schools from all over, and at least now that they're seeing, and they heard some of our stories today, and they know that this job exists, that this is actually a job that I might be interested in. So at least it's in the back of their mind. It might be planting a seed. So I think that's all that has to be done. Just plant a few seeds, and it may get there.
Mairead?
Yeah, the interesting thing, when I was starting to do computing in UCD, it was half and half girls, because there was no preconceptions about the nature of the technology. It was just something you did as a development, as something if you liked science, and so the preconceptions about unless you want to play games. So as simplistic as that sounds, I think some people think if you're not mad to play games that you won't be good at computing. I mean, if you think about it logically, it doesn't make any sense. But some people do go like that. So ironically, when there was no preconceptions about all of that, it was much more an equal line, and it absolutely dropped from that 50-50 to nearly zero overnight when different preconceptions came out, and we're slowly trying to get it back up.
And is that largely a kind of a 1980s phenomenon and onwards?
Yeah, I think the beginning of the 90s.
90s.
Yeah,
So
because even I think it was 40-50% in applied computing, which would have been the course, coming up to the late 80s. Really, well, it was always a bit lower than that, but not as much.
But now it's about 90-10. It's about 10% women,
if
90% ish.
Absolutely.
I was naive. I didn't realise that there was such a woman in a computing course in Ireland was a rare thing.
Yeah.
Doubly naive because I have my age coming back, so a mature student and a woman. But I must say, because I arrived here at that door that day with no preconceived ideas, I think that has absolutely helped me. I think now when I'm looking back, I'm going, do you know what, if my eyes had been open of walking in the door and it was going to be only boys in my class, would that have stopped me coming in? And that scares me a little bit because I'm more than capable, and I absolutely have loved the course. It's a fascinating course to be on, and it's a fun course. You know, when you, as Mairead said, when you're doing something that you really enjoy, it can be really fun as well. But it does scare me to think that girls who are there today, the amazing young women today, would the idea of walking into a class with 20 boys and them being the only girl in the class, would that put them off? And if so, there's what we need to change. That, you have to start somewhere. The change has to start. I think for girls to make sure that your support structures, again back to support structures in place in the college. I have not just friends on the course that I'm on in computer forensic, but right across all the streams in computing when we meet for coffee, and girls and boys. But it's really important for girls to share their journeys and help each other out. I don't know about the gaming side of things. A lot of the boys think they're coming in and we're real gamers, but I mean, that's left at the door because that's not what computing is about.
I know.
Again, the same thing for computer forensic and security. It's not. I'm not going to be CSI Kilmeaden or CSI Waterford. It's not like that. This whole CSI effect has taken over. There's the preconceptions out there are, that's what we need to change. That there's so many opportunities for young women, young, amazing, capable women, and the soft skills that women can give to the tech industry, the added value that having a woman on your team, the differences of opinion. I think certainly companies are changing their attitudes to and really focusing on diversity and inclusion, and I think it's all headed in the correct direction, and things will change. It mightn't change in the next year or two, but certainly voluntary organisations like Coda Dojo and all of these are going to start taking effect, and we are going to see all the work CalMaths are doing in the college here, all these science and engineering courses that we're putting, that the investment now that is being made for women in technology, men in technology, it's right across the board. I do think it is going to pay dividends in future years.
There's another interesting characteristic of all of your stories that I've noted, in that you're all completely different. Like, you are all individuals. You're not all of a type. And probably what you're saying there about, the boys as well is probably true. Like, I mean, there's this old kind of stereotype you would see in The Simpsons or South Park or something like that of, the kind of the geeky guy sitting in the corner in the dark, you know, wearing black, listening to heavy metal music. And I've just realised that I'm wearing a black
were,
t-shirt and I'm sitting in the corner away from all of you. But I listen to other music outside of heavy metal. I like pop, I like rock, I like dance. But there's
just street cred.
Yeah, not really. But there's that's kind of a reductive view that somebody has to be into video games. Somebody might be into video games. Lots of people are into video games.
Absolutely,
or somebody has to be into maths and physics. You might be, or you might not be. But you've all got different. You've all come to it from a different place, and you know, I think maybe one of the, if there was one characteristic I'd say about all of you, and please don't take this the wrong way, is that maybe you're all curious individuals.
Yeah.
How would you feel about that?
I'm very curious. I absolutely love learning. I get joy in finding out new things every day. Also, my inquisitive nature is a complete fit for a forensic degree. And my audit background from the banking system, my eye for detail and eye for something that's amiss. And, you know, when the books don't balance, if it can't be 1 cent and it's not right. So
maybe you will have CSI committee. Phil, I'm interested to see about, do you see any melding between your life as an athlete and your life with ICT?
Like, it definitely is great because I do a lot of like promoting with women in sports. So to promote women in IT as well, like, is absolutely super. But even as I go on and so my master's takes me up to 2020. So even when I'm looking for a job after that, like, there is so many opportunities in the IT industry, like with flexibility and stuff like that. And even like, say with Sun Life, who have strong connections with the college, like they have so many internship opportunities, and even like promoting the women leadership. Like, I did a talk there last year, but even they invited me in after just to speak about like my flexibility, even to come in and do like an internship or anything like that. But like, there is just so many possibilities out there as well, but there's so many different streams. Like, people, like even one of my housemates this year started the applied computing, and even just different questions people ask both of us. Like, he's doing certain modules and then I'm doing different ones, but people think it's like all programming. Or even when I'm in sport, my most common question is, oh, how many miles did you do today? And even in the computing side of it, it's like, oh, can you fix my computer? Do you know, like, like these are just common perceptions that people have out there, even though like the programming side wasn't like one of my favourite aspects of the course. And then I was like, oh my God, this is going to be all programming. But no, there's so many different streams. And like, I love the business side of it, the data analytics and all that aspect of it. And like, you don't have to solely focus on the programming. And like, people don't understand the opportunities that are out there. And like, as Aisling said as well, like even like you have in the BIS, like you have the programming side or the analyst side, like, and then go down the digital media. Like, there's endless opportunities with an IT degree that people don't realise, and like, you're not confining yourself.
I'm interested in the world of kind of health informatics, and I see it as just like it's kicked off rightly. There's hundreds of people walking around the college here today obsessed with Fitbits because there's a marchathon event. Mairead is wondering about her steps. I haven't checked my steps today yet. I don't have a Fitbit, so but anyway, that's another day's work. Do you marry that with your world, with do you see any crossover between that and what you do as an athlete? There's
absolutely massive crossover. Even like different things that we do in training, like we do these certain jump tests and stuff like that, and we have a whole like dashboard behind the whole thing and just monitoring different things. So like, you can use like create a front end of it to display your whole thing, and there is massive, but like, the health industry has gone absolutely crazy, and there's constant data. Like, everyone is wearing, as you said, a Fitbit or like the Apple Watches or whatever, and there's constant data inside.
Sorry, I'd have to stop you there. Only wealthy people like Mairead can afford the Apple Watch.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
But you know, like, there's literally data everywhere, and this data has to be used in like future development or whatever. So like it's just at our fingertips, and like obviously over years, like it's going to be used and harnessed a lot more for future development and stuff. So yeah, there will be a massive crossover in time. Yeah, as well.
Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to pause for a moment, and I'm going to play you all something. In that we had some students in a module that I did last semester. 2 girls, as it happens. I sent them off up to, there was an event, Crystal Valley Tech, in the WIT arena, very similar to what was today, and they went up. And I got them to record some vox pops of some of the people who were at the event. And one of the vox pops I've kind of kept specifically for this podcast today. And they went around and asked various people who were there. Some were exhibitors, some were just people who were present. Why more girls didn't get into computing? And I'd be very interested to hear your reactions after we have a listen to it.
Because it's seen as a male-dominated industry, wrongly of course, because girls actually do better in computing than fellas.
Because they don't get the ability to do it in school, I think. Like I went in all-girls school and we didn't do any programming. The only computers we did was ECDL.
Social norm kind of thing. There's not a load of girls in the computing world, so people don't follow it. They don't have anyone to look up to. They won't do it.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it's probably always been a male-dominated kind of industry. But you certainly see there's more like during my time in the college, I saw more and more girls doing courses and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely improving anyway.
I think it's traditionally it is quite a male-orientated industry. So, but I think that's changing.
It's not as glamorous, maybe. I don't know. It's very like sit in a corner and do your own thing. You know, that's hard.
The opinion would be it's because there's a lot of engineering and maths involved, and maybe that girls don't do that, from junior cert into leaving cert, and I think that's probably why, but not sure. Why do you think?
I think from my point of view, I see this every day because I'm kind of doing this Code Dojo. So I see. But what happens is that they're 11 or 12. They kind of going through this growing process, and they kind of thinking, okay, I don't want to be there with the other guys or how I look like. And
I think it's just not common enough yet. I think that they need to see other girls in the industry.
Because boys are smart. Yeah.
Now, what you're not hearing there, we edited that the bit where Rihanna, who's the student who did that, made a go for that young fella. I'd like to get your reaction to that, and maybe we start with yourself, Aisling. What do you think about that?
I think those responses were interesting. Just even with kind of, okay, it's seen as not the norm and there's no one to look up to. I think that's definitely something that we all can work on just to present more so that women know what's going on and what is available out there in tech. And even just the comment kind of around social. I do think social media has an awful lot to play as well, just because of these kind of theories that have developed that it's all in like a room just with guys and you're just going to be in a room coding for the rest of your life kind of thing. I think social media at the moment isn't really helping that. It is en route to change. There just needs to be more, I think, like one of the people we're speaking to there just needs to be more leaders out there and just kind of showcasing it. I think, showcasing it and just presenting it as to all the different opportunities that are there, because it's not just one case, and there's just so much you can do with it. People just don't know. There's not enough knowledge out there.
Mairead,
lack of knowledge.
You had your head on the table while you were listening to that. Go on.
Yeah, the thing about, girls not doing, I think he says maths and engineering, please, girls, do maths and engineering, it's a perception, and who starts it, where does it come from? I honestly don't believe any education institution is saying, is systematically saying to girls, you're not good enough. So where does it come from? I remember having great fun in maths class, right? Really enjoying it. And I suppose I have my own opinions. People aren't enjoying maths. Why is that? And that is another issue. That's the same for boys and girls. Okay, it's not a gender issue, but there's something going on there, and maybe it's that girls don't have the confidence to get over that blimp, because a lot of people have a little bit of a bump on the road when it comes to maths, and maybe girls pull back a bit quicker because they don't get over that bump. I don't know, but it's one thing. It's a real bugbear I have about people telling other people that they're not able to do things.
Phil, you're nodding. You're nodding with an angry look across your face.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to school as well, like, because, say if you like business in secondary school, you're going to go like, I'm going to do business in college. So maybe it comes to the introduction of it in both primary school and secondary school to develop people's knowledge of the whole thing and get their like awareness up, and then they will obviously start to enjoy it and things like that. But it definitely is like the perception out there, because like, as I said, when I was in nursing, it was like 80% girls to 20% boys, and it's like, oh, a boy can't be a nurse. But like, what if a girl and boy is like a doctor? There's no thing there, but it's like it's just the nurse kind of thing. So it's the same when it comes to the engineering and computers, because I even remember there was a girl in my class that went on and did chemical engineering, and I was like, God, that's strange for a girl to go into, but like that's our perception. And like there was aspects that she liked the chemistry and all that kind of stuff, and with the engineering. But like, yeah, I definitely think it will come back to education at primary school and secondary school level to increase the uptake then in college.
Judy, have you any reactions to that?
I was interested to hear somebody say that the tech industry is not glamorous. On the contrary, for some of the companies, and even Aisling had said to us previous over a coffee here how she gets to travel to America and spend time over there. The amount of opportunities that a job in the tech industry opens up to somebody to travel. It gives you choices, whether it being travelling to different countries, working from home, working in different countries, remote working. I'm surrounded by 3 glamorous women here.
Yeah.
I think the perceptions out there it's the problem, and that's what we really need to start changing, isn't it?
That's a very interesting point, because I suppose if somebody says it's not glamorous, that kind of by the negativity of that insinuates that people involved in IT are trolls who sit in the dark. And I will say, right, okay, so I'm involved in computing for 100 years now, and I do sit in the dark a lot, but that's because I sit in the studio, which is a kind of an unusual space. But I mean, we were talking about a coffee beforehand, Aisling. You spend a lot of your time in the States, and you're working with Glanbia, which is, I suppose, a food company, but you're working on a whole variety of projects that sounded so interesting.
Brands, yeah, so you'd have all these different brands, for example, that require websites. You'd then go directly to that business unit and you'd host a number of workshops, gather the requirements, very interactive. There is an awful lot of travel involved. And I suppose...
No, I'm going to stop you there, because you've introduced something there, requirements analysis or requirements, which is, now that can sound like a very technical term and it can be really boring, but it's so important. Could you maybe describe what that is?
Sure. So I suppose at a very high level, like we literally start off with, we go into a room with all the key business people, so stakeholders, and we will brainstorm, very informal, brainstorm ideas. What is this site going to look like? How is this site going to function? And then it'll go on to a bit more formal, like discovery and technical workshops. Literally, okay, so are we going to offer the customer the ability to track their order rather than redirect them to a different site? Are we going to enable this customer to view their order history? What kind of promotions are we going to have on this site? And then even moving into design, it's very new and fresh. Like it's very glamorous. So Glanbia, one of the major sectors that I work in is Glanbia Performance Nutrition. So the likes of Op Nutrition, BSN. So all those brands are very new and fresh, really, so I don't know how that wouldn't be seen as glamorous. And even just one thing on the maths, in order to be a developer or work in the tech industry, like it's not essential that you're amazing at maths. Like my leaving cert, I did ordinary level maths, and when I went into BIS, we touch on different languages. Like it was never an issue. Like you learn everything from the basics anyway. You're not going to go into crazy hard stuff. So I just want to highlight that as well. You don't have to be amazing at certain subjects. Like I was really interested in the people side of things, so just not to worry about that or think you need to have a certain level going in. Once you have interest, there's so much help when you're there. Like even when I was starting out with Java, I found it incredibly hard. I'm not too sure if that was because of the math or not, but like there's just so much resource there, like tutors, lecturers, like they want you to succeed. They do, and once you're willing to put the work in, you will be totally fine.
There's a number of aspects of fake news, if I can use a phrase that's recently become prevalent, in that vox pop, in that, mentioning things like that, it's this gender balance has always been this way, it's traditional. As Mairead alluded to, it's absolutely not. And I was recently listening to a podcast, it's a BBC one called Life in Science, and it featured a professor, Sue Black, who's a professor in a university in the UK, and I can't remember which one, but she has been, she was instrumental in setting up the Save Bletchley Park Foundation. Bletchley Park is a little kind of hobby horse of mine, which was the code breakers in World War II. And what was very interesting about it, how she got involved in it, because when she went into computing, she describes in the podcast about how she walked in and there was like one other woman in her class, and that was it. And she went in as a mature student with some kids. She had 3 small children, and she went in and did this. But when she was later on in her career and she was looking into Bletchley Park, did you know that 2/3 of the code breakers in Bletchley Park were women? I mean, you hear about Alan Turing, he's the kind of the hero, and he is, and I'm not trying to take away from any of Alan Turing's achievements, but there were massive amount of hugely talented and intelligent women worked there as well, and the bulk of them were women. You just don't necessarily hear about it, you know, which is quite interesting. And actually, she also talked about in the podcast about a woman who I didn't know anything about, and I've since read an article about her called Stephanie Shirley. Any of you know Stephanie Shirley? Stephanie Shirley is a British businesswoman who in the 60s set up a thing called Freelance Programmers, which was a company who largely employed women, not only women, but largely employed women to write computer software, and they used to write it at home when they were raising kids. A lot of times there was a lot of working mothers. Now this is back in the 1960s. Computer programs were written out in punch cards, and they used to essentially post their programs. But this was like they wrote like black box software that ran airplanes and navigation control systems. This was not like kind of I'm not trying to be. It wasn't women's work, and I'm using that with quotes around my fingers or quotes around my hair. This is proper mission control systems, and like in NASA, it's widely reported about the amount of women who work there, and even back in some of the traditional computing industries back in the day, it's really only up around the PC industry that things take a shift, and I just don't know why.
Definitely the PC, you're absolutely right. The PC did something.
Companies are now opening the doors like that again for women to re-enter the tech industry by removing certain obstacles, allowing them to work from home. I mean, the amount of companies now who offer their employees remote jobs, also flexible working hours, so that you can actually now fit your career and your work-life balance into a more stable environment. Definitely the view that programmers are on their own in a dark basement, those days are gone. There is no such thing as a siloer anymore in any company. It's all team-based roles. Everybody communicates, works together, driving on from projects from start to finish, as Aisling has alluded to. And I love that. I love that about the industry, that everybody helps, leave no man behind. Your team, you drive on your project with your team. So, you know, no piece of code is just left there. I'm working it. I don't know what this does. You're just adding no value, when from now you know what from the start of your program to the very end, what you're actually delivering, and that's changing now. And I think it's lovely the way that perception of the silo or one program working on it, so one programmer working on their own, that's gone.
We try to work in cooking analogies into every podcast
Cookies.
because I'm into cooking, which again there is in our house I'm the cook, and we often use the analogy of the chef as the programmer, or ingredients and different things. And I was trying to think of what would be a cooking analogy for a podcast when we're discussing women in tech. And it'd be like going into a restaurant where everyone is a man. It'd be weird. It'd just be weird. Like, it would just be odd. What's the point of this? It's just strange, I don't know. That's my cooking analogy for today.
Thanks for that, Rob. That's great.
So listen, we have the Machine Podcast is available on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher and Google Podcasts and everything you can think of. If you'd like to leave us a review, please do. That would be lovely. I don't really big into social media rubbish, but we are on it. A Machine_podcast on Twitter and Machine Podcast on Facebook. I really will get my act together and produce a website at some stage in the relatively near future, but I'm a bit busy with college work at the moment. We would like to wish all of you the best. Phil, I wish you all the best in your masters, in your dissertation and your athletics. I really look forward to following your progress. Judy, it will be a very lucky company or organisation who gets you after you graduate, and I think you know that, and if you don't, you should. Aisling, I really wish you all the best in your career and for making Glanbia one of the biggest or helping to make Glanbia one of the biggest Irish success stories. And to Mairead, who is carrying on fighting the good fight here in WIT and will hopefully be appearing in the podcast podcast again in the near future. If
I
she
thought
doesn't.
you were going to wish me well in my retirement, Rob.
Mairead, now, come on, I don't want to be putting years onto you. And anyway, this place is like the Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave.
Yeah.